Hello everyone and welcome to the conversation class. And today we're going to talk about English. Let's talk about English. So we're going to go through the first 6 boxes here to have a conversation and talk about them. So the first question we have is, why are you learning English? Well, you have your own reasons. I'm going to suggest a few that may ring true with you. We're going to give reasons and explain. So they want you to elaborate. What does elaborate mean? Let's see. Elaborate. Elaborate means to talk about it a bit more. Don't just give a one-word answer. Give maybe a paragraph. So elaborate means talk about it a little bit more. Okay, so you could say, well, I'm living in Ireland now and I want to be able to speak to the people who live here too. And you want to speak to the people that are in the shops or in your work. So you may want to get a good job and you know that you have to have good English in order to do that. So that may be a reason why you're learning English. I don't know though. What do you think? Maybe you want to talk to the teachers in school. It's a very common motivation. I find that people want to improve their education in order to help their children. So is that the reason why you're learning English, or one of the reasons? Or maybe you just think it's good for your brain. They say that learning new skills, especially a language, is very good for your brain. Is that the reason why? Okay, so write a bit about that. What do you find difficult when learning English? Give some examples. I wonder, I'd love to be in the class now having a good conversation about this. It'd be very interesting. So I'll give you some ideas. Maybe it's because of the vocabulary. Vocabulary refers to the words in the language, and there's so many of them. So maybe that's why you find it difficult. Maybe it's not that at all. Maybe it's the verbs, the action words. Or you see, maybe it's another reason could be that English doesn't always follow rules. There are many rules and there's many words and tenses and verbs that break those rules. So why is that? It's because England was invaded so often. I mean, England was invaded by, first of all, the Romans, and they brought Italian. And then there were the Anglo-Saxons that brought in some Germanic words into the language. And then we had the Vikings from Scandinavia, so they brought their language in. And finally we had the Normans and they brought French. So that's why we have such a mixture in English. So maybe it's the tenses, because there are so many tenses. There's past, present and future, and then within those there are 4 different others. For instance, 4 subdivisions. The present simple tense, I do. The present continuous tense, I am doing. The present perfect tense, I have done. And the present perfect continuous, I have been doing. So maybe that's what you find tricky, and maybe you can learn them but you're not sure how to apply them. That could be tricky for you, I would imagine. Okay, next question. Where in the world is English spoken as a first language? So English is the most widely spoken language because in a lot of countries it's the primary language, or the mother tongue we say, and then a lot of other countries it could be the second language that's spoken, or it could be the official language. So some countries they are bilingual, they speak 2 languages including English, or they could even be trilingual, like in Switzerland for instance is trilingual. So where is it spoken as a first language is the question. So we have England, Ireland, USA, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, I think South Africa as well, and many others where it's official language or a second language like India, Jamaica, Ghana, Uganda. Maybe you know more and you can tell me a country where it's spoken as a first or second language. The question is, where is it spoken as a first language? Next, how often do you speak English? So do you speak it rarely, or do you speak it frequently? And who do you talk to? So family, friends, teachers, workers. Who do you talk to? Of course, it's a good idea to speak to some people that live in the country are trying to learn the language. So to Irish people, I hope you get an opportunity to speak to Irish people. Next, do you think it's more important to speak fluently or without mistakes? What do you think? I think, it's just my opinion, but I think that speak fluently because it's really important to communicate with people around you. So however you do that is good. So sometimes you make mistakes, and I find that people are okay with that. It's obviously good to aim to speak without mistakes, but if you do make mistakes, people will just ignore them and will really concentrate on trying to understand you and communicate with you. So it's more important to speak fluently. And for instance, if you can't think of just the right word and the perfect word which you know in your language, just think of a simpler way of saying it just to get your message across. That's the most important thing. But tell me what you think, please. Last question. Do you ever read in English? So I'd say you read lots of things around you all the time. Maybe not books, but maybe magazines, maybe newspapers, signs, instructions, menus. I find that really it's hard for us to avoid reading in English because there are just so many signs, road signs around the place, so many instructions. So what do you read? Think of all the places that you read. You probably think, oh no, I don't read an English book, but you probably are reading more than you realize. If not, why not? So why don't you think of reading newspapers or books or even subtitles on television? Watch television and read the subtitles. Have a go with that. Okay, so could you write down the answers to those questions, please? You don't need to do the others, but have a look down here as well for English spoken, yes or no. So fill that out, please. There's a few more down here out of interest. And here's some useful language for you. So it's perfectly fine, as Irish people do, if you don't understand what someone is saying, to clarify, to get exactly what do they mean when they talk to you, to use these phrases. Could you repeat that, please? Could you speak more slowly, please? How do you say, insert a word, in English? How do you spell that? I'm sorry, I don't understand. What exactly do you mean? Pardon? What does this word mean? So please use those phrases. People will be happy to help you out because they know you want to understand what they're saying. Food for thought. We have really everything in common with America nowadays, except of course language. So this is a funny quote from one of our famous Irish writers, Oscar Wilde. He had some really funny sayings. Oh, it says they're an English writer. He certainly wrote in English, but he was Irish. So what do we have in common with America? Everything except, of course, language. It's because in other countries, like in America, they use different words and they have different spellings. So it's like really accents. We have lots of accents in Ireland. You could get maybe a Cork accent, which is the same language, it's English. However, they speak very fast and also they use different words and different phrases some of the time. So you will be able to understand them. You will be able to understand other accents, but it may be a bit more difficult until you get used to them. And then you'll be able to speak just as quickly and maybe pick up the accent as well. Okay, so that's the end of the lesson. Thank you very much, everyone, and please send me back your sentences. I'd love to see them. Thank you. Bye.